So now we're going to continue our discussion on methods, and we're going to show you some methods associated with some of our primitive data types. So now we've got int, remember that's whole numbers, and float and double or decimals. Long is also just whole numbers as well. It just gives you the ability to have a bigger whole number. And then char is a character. And you'll notice that string is not on there. String starts with an uppercase S, but it has a couple of methods associated with it, like string.length, and we've done string. The substring method was part of the string class. Now, the primitive data types don't have them, so instead they've created wrapper classes or classes objects to help you with the primitive data type. So integer with capital I, because it's an object, is now associated with int, and long, float, double characters associated with our char data type. And one of the methods that's fairly useful is this parse int. Now if you were to look up the documentation on integers, here's my documentation on integers, and if I were to look for, let me make that bigger because I need to make that bigger, Control F, parse int, there it is. This is a static method. Remember, static means that you can use it just the class name to call the method. You don't have to instantiate the object and then call it. So that's why we can say integer.parseInt and then take the string. Now what this does is it converts text into a number. So if you have like 1, 2, 3 that's in quotes, that's text, it'll convert it to a number. And then this toString does the opposite. It converts a number to text. Now we don't usually use these that often because all you have to do is concatenate it with the plus sign. If you say hello world plus 7, that 7 automatically becomes text anyway. So just a couple of other useful methods. Okay, the next thing we're going to show you is how to generate a number using some of Java's built-in methods. And the one in question is the random object. This is part of java.util.random, and it creates a random number generator. And it doesn't actually create the random number, it just creates a whole sequence of numbers. And the reason why is computers can't think of random numbers. They can't really think, they can only process data. And so we can give it an algorithm that will generate random numbers, but it can't think of them itself. And that's why we use a random number generator. And so when you instantiate your object, well, let's look at the nextInt first. NextInt is the method we would use to create a random number. Like suppose you wanted a random number to represent dice, 1 to 6 or something like that. NextInt is what we would use. And actually, it's this one right here that we'd use. It's not this one. And I'll show you why in just a sec. But if you'll notice, there's no static on these. And that means you have to instantiate this random object. You can't just say random.nextInt like we could with the wrapper classes and we could with the math classes. You can't do this on this. You have to actually instantiate the object. So let's show you, oh, I don't show you how to instantiate the object. Let's show you how to instantiate the object. How's that? So you instantiate the object by saying random, and then you specify what the name is. I usually call my generator equals new random, semicolon at the end. So now we've created a random number generator. Once you get good at coding and stuff like that, you could probably shorten this to gen, just so long as you know that it is your random generator. Now that nextInt method that had that parameter, that's why I said we were using the second one and not the first one, is because that will let you specify the range of your numbers. So here's an example. Suppose you want a dice value, a value from 1 to 6. What we'd do is from 1 to 6 is 6 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we could say die1 equals generator dot nextInt, that's what we're calling the method, and 6 is our range plus our start is 1. So that's going to give us a random number between 1 and 6. And I don't have random here. I can't just say random.nextInt because it wasn't a static method. I have to use the generator. Okay, your turn. Try and generate a value from 60 to 70. Did you think of it? Okay, because I'm going to show you anyway. All right, so there's two ways of doing this, and that's all dependent on if you thought I included the number 70 or not. Because from 60 to 70 is actually 11 numbers. 60 to 69 is 10, plus 1 is 11. So this is if you're including the 70. You've got your generator.nextInt. 11 is your range, starting at 60. If you didn't want to include that, oh, I didn't, that should be a 10. Let's fix that. If you don't want to include that 70, so it's just the random numbers, a random number somewhere in the 60s, then you could say plus 10, because then that would be 10 numbers. All right, that's, wait, one more. There we go. So now that's correct. Okay, instantiate, I've already talked about. I should have put this slide first. It looks like my slides are just out of order. That creates a random. This is a review. Dang it, I should have skipped this one. Oh, hey, we have more numbers. Look, random number between 1 and 10. So it's my ranges 10, because I'm starting at 1. 1 to 10 is 10 numbers. Plus 1, that's my start. Here's one between 30 and 50. That's a range of 20. This is not including the number 50 though, because that would be 21. And then it's going to start at 1, or start at 30. So just some more examples of random numbers. I also give you like a little, here's actual code to do maybe a card deck. And a lot of times people like to put the random generator up, not inside their method, in their main method. You could put the random generator in here. If you put it in main, you don't have to put public static. If you put it before main, then you say public static random generator equals new random. And that creates your generator. Then they're creating a card, so they've got a random number between 1 and 14. They've got a suit name. This is a random number between 0 and 3, because our start is 0. We don't have a plus 1 there. So this is just information on how to, just a little example on how to generate random numbers. Don't forget, you do need to include java.util.random. If you don't have that included, this line of code, the whole thing will give you tons of errors, because it's like, hey, what is this random thing? All right, well, good luck with the programs. Oh no, we got to do counters. This video is getting kind of long. I'm going to pause for a minute, and we'll catch you up in the next video, and we'll talk a little bit about counters.